So I just wanted to introduce Scott Dean, who's one of our first franchise partners interstate for Freshfront outside of South Australia. Scott's based in Victoria. He's going to be running up hopefully a great business in the Greensboro, Eltham area where he lives, and potentially scaling up a little bit further as things go along. So I thought this would be a really good chat just to give you insight of the type of people that are looking at Freshfront that are a little bit different to what you might expect, or maybe a little bit different to, I guess, a lot of the other maybe service-based systems out there. And Scott's got a really good story, so we'll probably kick it off with the background of that journey of how we came to here and what that looked like.
Yeah, thanks, Marty. Happy to elaborate. So, my background, in a condensed version, I guess, is started life out in the Victoria Police, and which thoroughly enjoyed. I was only very young when I got in, but as a grounding, I think, for everything I've done in the rest of my life, I think it was great discipline,
Absolutely.
great training. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and actually, one of my daughters has actually now joined the police force, so the tradition continues. However, I got to my late 20s, and I had a lot of ambition. There's a lot of things I wanted to do. I didn't think the police force was going to allow me to, get to where I wanted to go in life. And not that there's anything wrong with it, but that's just what I decided to do. So I decided I'd go out and get a job, another job, and didn't actually know what I was going to do, to be honest with you. But I actually fell into sales.
Yep.
And in office equipment, and moved through the ranks from a salesperson out in the beat, and ultimately through to senior management and running very large sort of sales teams. So and loved it, absolutely loved it, and
The thrill of the chase.
yeah, and it was again some great training, great people, which I've been pretty fortunate with. All my life, and
that would have been in an era where like office equipment things were like really going crazy.
oh yeah,
So a
it was
lot of
massively
opportunities.
competitive,
Yep.
but it was a great industry to work in. There's some great salespeople along the way. A couple of rogues as well, but
Yeah.
but it was great, and it was good to be in the management side of it.
Yep.
So anyway, I got to I guess my mid-30s, and me and a mate who I was working with at the time decided we wanted to start our own business, and had a lot of ideas and ideals, and didn't have a lot of money behind us, but we had a crack, and we started literally something from nothing, and we said yes to everything, which is a great way to blow up a business, but we didn't know any better, and we pivoted 100 times, went in 100 different directions, but ultimately that business started off as one thing and ended up something completely different, but that turned into a software business that specialised in automating purchase to pay, accounts payable and accounts receivable, and we found a niche. And
Yep. As in like an industry specific niche.
yeah, it was about taking a very paper intensive process and automating it with technology that was coming on through at the time, and it was exciting. We were just creating stuff. It was very early days of the sort of software as a service
Yep.
industry, and we nearly went broke 100 times, and
The parts they don't tell you.
it was scary. Like on the outside, everyone would look at these guys. They're killing it, but
Yep.
man, we were cutting it fine. And anyway, probably 10 years in, we got an offer from one of our customers, actually, which is a US-based company, to buy our business, and we chose to sell. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. We probably had stuck it out and found some venture capital type investor. It probably could have turned it into who knows what, but we didn't do that. I guess we were just sick of
Take the win and move on.
bootstrapping it. Anyway, that led into what became, I guess, my corporate career, or senior management career. And I was very fortunate over the years to be able to run a number of really, really good software and technology-based businesses, or software as a service companies, as the CEO or as a senior C-level base executive. And I was very fortunate to be able to take some of those businesses through to an exit, be able to do some acquisitions, and these are businesses that were either owned by private equity investors, family office type investment, and or unlisted public companies, and they were, good businesses. Some international, some of them, focused on the Australian market. But all in all, they were, I worked with some wonderful people, some really good investors, really smart people, and learned a heck of a lot along the way. Like anything, made a million mistakes,
It's all part of the ride.
Part of the ride, yeah. It's been a great career. I thoroughly enjoyed it. End of 2024, I finished up my last role as a CEO, and I guess I was at that point where I needed to make a decision what do I do next. One of the things I really wanted to do was travel, which I did, and it's like a recharge. I needed a recharge of the batteries, and but I didn't know what I was going to do next. The most obvious thing to do would have been to go back into a corporate job.
The suit back on and
yeah. Unfortunately, the suit's becoming less and less of a thing.
Yeah,
but,
true.
Yeah, you're right. And I knew it was the path of least resistance. It was the thing that I could and I should do. Again, fortunately, I was tapped on the shoulder, headhunted for a couple of opportunities, which didn't pan out. That happens, Obviously, wasn't the right person for that job, and there was a couple of other opportunities which I chose not to pursue. Just they just weren't for me. It started to look around. I thought maybe I'll do some consulting, take that experience and apply it to other businesses, but it just wasn't motivating me to want to go down that particular path. So about the middle of last year, I decided that I don't want to go back into corporate. Whatever it was, just saying.
Do you have any inclination of what that feeling was? Is it the red tape or the?
Look, as I said, I can't think of a lot of bad examples. It was I enjoyed everything I did, but in life there are times it's time to move on. It's like I knew it was time to move out of the police force. I could have had a good career through there, and some of my mates went on and did 40 years, and they're wonderful. They had magnificent careers, and but it wasn't for me, and I knew. And I think if you're watching this and you're on that sort of precipice of do I go this way or that way, your gut normally tells you what to do. And I got to that point. I just didn't want to go back and do it for someone else. I wanted to do the next phase of my life. I wanted to do something that was mine.
Yep.
And I'm not going to be there beholden to other people and other investors and those sort of things. Nothing wrong with that, but that's what I chose not to do.
Yep.
So it was like, okay, I'm going to go business and business for myself. And I wasn't looking. I didn't want to get. I wanted to get something that I could pay for myself, and that I believe there was a long-term future in something that I could invest in and develop that would ultimately be around for many years to come. So I looked at many, many different businesses. The area that was most attractive to me was home services. And the reason for that, coming from a technology background, is that irrespective, who knows what's going to happen with AI and a lot of the changes that are going on around the world, and as much as I was in that industry, but it's going to change. But the one thing, as everyone gets busier and busier, and we've got less and less time, is home services-based business, or for corporations where you need someone to come and do something physical for you, is not going to go away.
Yep.
It's not. And I often gets talked about everything's going to be a robot. So maybe one day. But
once we see a robot rolling up the hose reel,
yeah,
but maybe we can own the robots.
Yeah, that's right. So it just felt like it was a bit of a future-proof type decision in terms of what I wanted to do. So I looked at a lot of different businesses, a lot of companies are on the market for sale, and I'm sure people have done a lot of great work in getting their businesses to where they need to be, but most of them just weren't floating my boat. They just, the numbers just didn't stack up.
Were they home service?
Some were. They were services-based businesses.
Yep.
A couple of other types as well. Looked at some a whole bunch of different things. I won't go through all of them now, but it was I went through a lot, and I guess with my background, I understand numbers very well. Understand how to read a P&L and a balance sheet, and you could see. Sadly, a lot of the businesses weren't well managed, financially, and I'm sure they're good businesses, but unfortunately, if they're stacking up pretty crappy numbers, it's very hard to justify to spend the money
to pay for that problem.
To pay for it. So anyway, the one thing I hadn't considered in the view or things I was looking at was franchising, and again, no negative towards franchising for me, just hadn't considered it, just and I guess as the more and more you search for things, with the way the algorithms work, I'm getting ads from everything and everybody, and franchising started to come up a lot, and I then became curious to have a look at a number of the different businesses, and again a wide variety that were being put forward, and I guess the more I looked at it, the more it started to make sense, and I think the things that swung me to saying I'm going to take franchising seriously were I'm buying a brand, and that brand typically, if you're franchising, it should already have a footprint and some reviews, and it's got some gravitas basically, and there's typically going to be a system in place that has been proven to work for others and can be provable that it does work, and there's a marketing engine. There's things that the franchisors have worked out that this thing actually works if you follow this. And I guess I looked at it in terms of where I'm at in my life, the more I looked at it, I thought that I actually want to buy into something that I know has got a repeatable system that I can follow. And the more I looked at it, the more franchising made sense to me. I basically got rid of a lot of the noise and started to focus in on the franchising, and went through the process with some really good businesses, mainly around the services type of thing. And I'd started to narrow down, I went from like 20 different things I was looking at and got it down to a short list of 3. In that, obviously, Freshfront was one of those, and I, to be perfectly blunt, was pressure washing or external cleaning on my radar? No. Not at all.
I think that's the nice thing about it. Like it's definitely under the radar for people like yourself.
Well, I've got no doubt there'll be some friends and people that know me will see this and go, "What the?"
That's exactly what happened. When I started. So.
And but what attracted me? So saw your ad, so they started to pop up in my I think on Insta or one of those things, and I know you've asked me this question before, Marty, but I can't tell you exactly what hit me, but there's something that you said, whatever that might be about your business, that I've gone, okay, I'll click on that and have a look. And I think a couple of things that, if I'm in hindsight, I look back, you're refreshingly honest in your ads. In other words, you basically said right up front, this is about going to cost you about this amount of money. This is what happens. It's not all perfect, but bloody blah. And this is my background, and it was relatable. I thought, okay, I believe that, and I like the fact that you went straight to, this is what you need. If you're serious, this is what's possible. And you had a couple of your franchisees who were talking about, it's obviously it's a pretty new franchise, and talking about how they were going, and they're either very good liars, or they'll tell them the truth. And I just had to make a call. Okay, I believe these guys. I believe what they're saying. So So
Also, I think we put you in touch with them real quick.
yeah,
Just
I
call
you
them.
know, did my due diligence.
Yep.
I spoke to them as I did with all the different franchises, and and all of them were good. However, a couple of things that jumped out. I'm reasonably entrepreneurial, a bit of a risk taker, and most of the franchises I'd spoken to, really good brands, good names, were very limited in the territory that I was able to choose. I was either going to be told you have to take this one over here somewhere or other,
Yep.
or you buy someone's that's already existing. Nothing wrong with that, but that's not what I wanted. I believed that if I was going to invest my money in this franchise, I wanted the opportunity where I could to buy into something where there is potentially multiple territories, or I could replicate what I was doing,
Yep.
so that I could get the power of being able to duplicate and replicate what I'm doing, on the back of your business, so that
Yeah.
if I could get multiple vans and cars out on the road, then understanding that the maths behind that was important, and the fact that at that particular time Freshfront wasn't in Melbourne, big tick in the box. Clearly, you were kicking goals in Adelaide. It looked repeatable. All of those sort of things. So, I narrowed this business down to one of three that I want to look at, and obviously in the end, I've chosen to come down this particular path.
Yep.
So yeah, sorry, that's a long-winded version, but
No, it's a good story.
That's how I got it.
Yeah.
And just finished the final part of the training and heading back to Melbourne, and I'll be able to kick things off. And again, a couple of other little things. It's clearly something that people want and need,
Yep.
For their house, or for their commercial property, and it's repeatable. It's the sort of thing that isn't going to go away in a hurry, and there's clearly a demand, and there's no doubt there's competition, and which is great. I've got
Yep.
no issue with that. There are millions and millions of houses out there and commercial properties, and there's probably not enough people to do the work. So
Yeah, it's a very fragmented industry.
Yeah.
I would say it's trending upwards in terms of demand, because if you think about people's houses, they're more elaborate than ever. Like, we're more invested than ever. Presentation's such a big thing. The stuff that the property's made out of is, like, although good quality, probably less durable without maintenance. Whereas 50 years ago, it's bricks, bit of tiles, and that's it.
yeah,
So, although there's probably more awareness around it and more people doing it, it's like a rising tide lifts all ships
Yeah.
kind of scenario, which is, I think, a lot of maybe independent operators in the industry are looking at and saying, "Oh, it's flooded. There's too much competition." But the reality is, once they're booked out for a week, they can't service anyone. So it's like the classic fragmented industry. So I think there's only continued growth and.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I mean, I know you put me on to, a closed Facebook group for the pressure cleaning industry, and which is great. There's obviously some really good people, good operators out there, and you see a lot of the questions and things being asked by new people, like me, to the industry, and if they're out on their own, I can imagine, you could stuff something up pretty well, and cost you a lot of time, reputation, money. Where the ideal here, or the idea here, is I've got people who are actively invested in me being successful,
Yep.
who are going to give me the right advice and the experience and all of those sort of things. And that, again, from a franchise perspective, is, I think, one of the real advantages for someone like me. Could I go and set up a truck or van, like I've now got with all the, because I could.
Yeah.
Right? Would I know what to buy and what to do, and what works and what doesn't work? No. I would chew through, the money I've invested in this thing. By the time I'm properly up to speed, I would have already blown it.
Yep.
And had a couple of crack. Hence the reason I'm doing this. So.
Yep, for sure. And then sort of high level plans of like moving forward, what you're looking to do with the business in your area and where you see it going.
So the territory I've got is effectively, it's like Banyule, city of Banyule and Nillumbik in Melbourne, which main suburbs are like, from St Andrews through to Eltham, right through to Heidelberg and Eaglemont and Greensborough and everything in between. So great area. I live in the area, so I know it well, which is also advantageous for me that I can,
Sure.
I can live and work in where I live. Got family in Heidelberg. We live in, on the sort of border of Eltham and Research. So look, first up, I'm going to get my hands dirty. I want to get out and, understand all the different nuances of the business and, get out and do the work. A plan is that as soon as I'm able or capable, I want to expand that and be able to bring on other vans and or expand the territory into other areas. Obviously, with your with your guidance and support. To do that, I want to develop this into a serious business with multiple vans on the road, so that there's something that's replicatable. We've got the brand, we've got people know their Fresh Fronts. Got the job, that it's going to be done properly. It'll be done professionally. It'll be done, at a fair and reasonable price, and it is. They know that they're buying something that is got something substantial behind it. It's not just me fronting up going, I'll have a crack at this. And see how it works.
I think we can lean on that. Like, although we haven't been into another state yet, like we've still done a lot of stuff here. In Adelaide, so we can definitely lean on that and be upfront about people like, hey, Scott's a new business owner here, but it's 10 years of support.
It's like any business, at one point, there's one McDonald's.
One of our main values, which we're kind of working through, is transparency. Like, from franchisees, employees, customers, just tell exactly how it is. And I think you probably saw that in how we've approached marketing.
That was absolutely an important thing for me, is that I wanted to be involved in a business that's got some integrity, honesty and transparency, I think, which is all very much part of how I've managed businesses over the years as well, and all of those boxes were ticked, which was important.
Yep. And how did you find the training process? Like, I know there's a lot of little bits and pieces to plug in, but did you find that useful? Has it built up a bit of confidence and sort of ready to go, or is there gaps, or interesting to get that
clearly
perspective?
You've put 10 years worth of experience down on video. And
it's tedious.
Well, but I could imagine having run an online training business for many years. I know how much work goes into that, and you've got the content, both from the work out in the field where you videoed it, through to explaining why things are happening, safety measures, all of those sort of things. So for someone like me who's completely a newbie to it, that is gold, where I've been able to sit and watch every single one of those videos, and it's a lot of content, but you feel ready, when you go through it, you go, okay, yeah, that makes sense, I can get that, or you're available to ask questions and explain, and then coming here to Adelaide and physically unrolling the hoses and connecting everything up and just looking at how everything connects up in the van, which is a huge amount of investment and time goes into that as well, and obviously experience. And so I actually feel ready. The content is extremely important, because there's so much to understand and know, and now if I'm not 100% sure, there's a video for that, and I can go back and refresh, obviously speak to yourself. So long-winded answer, but it's been excellent.
I think sometimes the argument, this kind of business seems really simple, and for the most part it is. From a business structure, is very simple. You service customers, you make sure they're happy, you go back and do it again. But there's so many little moving pieces, and there might be independent operators out there that are like, you guys are overcomplicating it. It's easy. But my argument with that is, are you running at the same level as maybe a Fresh Front?
But the other side, if you've invested hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars into your property, or tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into paving and things in your backyard or pools.
Yep.
You know, you don't want someone coming out and experimenting with
Yes.
you know,
Yep.
property. You know, invested myself. You know, we've got a lot of money invested in our house and our pavers and all of those sort of bits and pieces. And you know, you come around and stuff it up, and you know, not going to be happy. And you know, so it's important. Yeah, the details matter, and they matter to me. Like just from a business perspective, the details matter, and I want to make sure that you know. And interestingly, Marty, a lot of what I see within the industry, you know, again going back to that Facebook group, most people are, you know, really committed to what they're actually trying to do, which is really good as well. From an industry, I think as everyone in the industry gets better and professional, it's a good thing for all. Like any industry, there's always going to be someone who, you know, goes a bit rogue and feral, but that happens in every industry, you know, unfortunately. But yeah, we're dealing with people's biggest asset, biggest investment. You know, you want to make sure you
It's
get it right.
going up exponentially at the moment.
Oh,
So
but, you know,
yeah.
you don't want to muck it up.
Yeah, I think that training also, it's less, I mean, obviously end to end, you'll know how to spray water at certain things, but if you take all that training, that it empowers you to be able to service the customer and, you know, meet their needs and answer their questions, and that's probably where there's a lot of value in it. So, and that just, you know, takes a bit of time to get the runs on the board and practice, but I wanted anyone coming into this system, I didn't want them to say like, oh, well, they didn't really give me enough information. I think the feedback so far is like, okay, there's too much. Like it's a lot to take in, but we've spoke about what we're going to do with AI and things like that to so you've almost got that encyclopedia of the business at your hand. So if you ever get stuck, you can kind of refer back to that, and having all of that information kind of in the can is half the battle.
Well, that's the thing, you know. Virtually every scenario that I'm likely and other franchisees are likely to come across, you've already got a video explaining what, why, and how.
Yeah.
That's what you're paying for.
A lot of scars there.
But yeah, from someone who's investing money into that, that's what I'm paying for. That's what I want.
Yeah,
You know, I want that.
absolutely.
I don't want to have to go through 2, 3, 4, 5 years of experience to get to that particular level. I could, but I don't want to.
I think
That's not what I wanna do.
you asked me like when did you feel comfortable that like I've got this reasonably under control. It was probably 5 years for me, and I was going hard at it. So I was like trying to grow the business, trying to work out what the business was, trying to, you know, how to bring staff in and things like that. It was easy
So
5 years.
That's exactly right, and that's, I mean, I've owned my own business, I've run my own businesses. Myself and wife also, along the way, we bought and ran a cocktail wine bar in Eltham, and you know, we'd never done that. Great experience, you know, we loved it, and you know, for Chrissy, my wife, it was hard on her. You know, she actually ran it. Like,
A lot of hustle. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was, but it was a, you know, wonderful experience, and you know, so the point I was going to make before was in regard to, you know, that buying into a franchise, and, you know, I know, and, you know, people I know have also said, you know, but you really want to pay that, you've got to pay this ongoing fee, you know, which is 10%. And I don't look at that at all as a negative, because if I'm running my own business and having, you know, marketing support, admin support, hooking up with a whole bunch of different softwares and things I need to do to run my business, and all of those things as an operational cost would equal or exceed that anyway. That's a cost to doing business. You know, you can't just, you know, you've got to use all of those tools to run a professional business. So for me, aside from you know, getting a 5-year head start on you know, you going from scratch to where you're feeling comfortable doing it all, and then me paying a fee to inherit that, and then it's, you know, it's not a lot. It's really not a lot
The model,
in the whole scheme of things.
yeah, like I've spoke with a lot of franchise people around building this model, and my ethos is like this has to be a no-brainer for the right person. So it's not like, it's good but the fees are a bit too high, or like, the fees are low but they don't really do anything, which is really common in franchising. Like, it's a fixed monthly fee, but we'll give you the fridge magnet and that's it. Like, we've got to find the happy medium where it's just a complete no-brainer, so then we can just focus on actually growing the business. And from my experience, like using a lot of when you're growing a small business, you have to sort of outsource things, whether it be marketing or, I mean, I did marketing, call center, website stuff, design, all sorts of things. And like, you're paying obviously a premium to get that done, but then there's also this hidden sunk cost of keeping everyone accountable, which was a real pain in the ass. But I think in franchising, you don't really have that because we're accountable because we've got a vested interest in your success, and then it's just a aligned incentive. So
I mean, it's the classic. If I don't succeed, you don't make any money.
Yeah,
Like it has to be a win-win, and that I'm comfortable with that. Hence the reason I've invested my money, and I might most likely invest more because I wanted a fast start.
Yep.
I didn't want to have to learn it all along the way, and that's why I invested.
what would say 12 months down the track, what does a win look like for you? Starting this up and 12 months down, what does it look like?
Yeah, look, I've got very specific goals and the sort of the revenue or turnover that I want to be achieving, and again, I'm absolute realist. I know it won't happen overnight, but I believe that, again, this is another reason I was attracted to this. I think getting a fast start and looking at your other franchisees who from all different walks of life, that seems like a real possibility. Proof will be in the doing. I can say this now and nothing happens. I don't think that'll happen, but so I know where I want to be from a revenue perspective down 12 months down the track, and I'd like to have at least one other van on the road in that time, and potentially looking at where to next, if not more. So, I want to prove it out. I think that's the most prudent thing to do, and then hit the go button.
Yep. And is there anything that, like, any fears, like, if this happens, oh shit, like, kind of thoughts? Which I think is normal.
Yeah, look, clearly I've got some doubts and some, mainly around me personally, but can I do it? What happens when? But it doesn't matter what you do. You're always going to, if you don't go into anything, planning for, realising that not everything's going to be perfect, because it's not. But I'll cross those bridges when I get to it. But the other side of that, even if I do get some uncomfortable or sticky times, I've got you and the team I can fall back onto, because I'm sure at some point someone would have been through it. Yeah. And the important part is you've got a vested interest in making sure that I work my way through it. I mean, am I going in with rose-coloured glasses? Absolutely not. But there's nothing I've seen to date that says that I can't do this. So, otherwise I wouldn't invest it. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the other thing with our sort of support model, like, we're not there to run people's business for them. I think that's the other misconception about franchising, but we are there to, like, we can jump in and do things and help, and whether that's...
No, this is 100% my business, but I have bought a brand, and I bought IP, and I bought, a system that I can plug into, then I'm happy to do that. Why wouldn't you? Like, if you look at the most successful franchises, globally, and everyone knows their names, that they work because it doesn't matter where you go in the world, you walk in and it's exactly the same.
Yes.
It works. And that's, why would you try and reinvent the wheel if something actually works? So, and that, for me, I know it's not for everyone, but for me, that's what I wanted to buy.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it'll be exciting to get some jobs in the books.
It will,
your wife, Chrissy, What was her thoughts early on?
Look, she was a bit like what?
Yeah.
It's like, what do you want to do? You know, and because it is so far opposite of what I've been doing, and but I think the more she is
You mentioned she was like, I'm gonna see what the opportunity is here, and called a few local people and had some mixed experiences about.
Yeah, well, again, Chrissy's she will always, she does in deeper due diligence compared to me, and you know, God bless her, along the way, there was a couple of businesses I was getting very close to going, yeah, this is going to be it, and because of her sort of detailed research, she would come and she goes, I'm not comfortable with this at all, because I have a look at A, B, C and D, and even though I thought I'd done enough in research, she brought up things that are going, no, not touching it, not going anywhere near it, and that, I'd be forever grateful for that. And this, again, like me, didn't really know a lot about it, and went and called 3 or 4 local businesses to give us a quote. Not one came out to see us. One guy gave a quote, and obviously used Google Maps or something, and I thought it was a reasonable and fair estimate of what we needed, but I would have liked someone to come and have a look, but they didn't do that, and I think 3 of them didn't even respond, so, but again, that's not, we've had plumbing done around the place, we've had other bits and pieces, unfortunately, with a lot of trades, and maybe people are just way too busy, and I totally get it, but, interestingly, the ones who take the time to either turn up and or get on the front foot are the ones you often give the business to, and it's not rocket science. So.
It's really tricky. There's like the customers are getting a lot more sophisticated because we're used to doing stuff on our phone. We want automated booking. Sometimes we do want to talk to someone, sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
And if you're like the independent operator, tradie, whatever it may be, you've got to run all this business stuff, and then you've got to deal with that, and it's just very overwhelming. So I think that's why there's this like constant lack of response, or maybe don't hit the mark service-wise, because those people are just wearing all the hats. And
I get it. It would be overwhelming at times, and but again, it's the little things that count. I've told you the story. I used to use this in a lot of training for salespeople and account executives over the years. The washing machine repair guy is going to come. You need it repaired. They say they're going to be there such and such a time. You actually take time out of your day, time off work, to go and wait for them to turn up. And then an hour passes, 2 hours, 3 at the end of the day, and they haven't fronted up. And you got nothing. And then you get onto them, you find that they get back to you and say, oh, look, I can't get there today, I'll get there tomorrow.
Yep.
And you just want to punch yourself in the face, because it is so frustrating. You think, just tell me you can't. It's the old adage, people will accept bad news if you tell them.
yes,
But if you don't say anything, it's the greatest frustration of all time. And that, we've all been through that, and that, I think, again, looking at the systems in play and in place here and the software that used, that it's keeping the customer informed, and whether you're going to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour late, whether you can get there, all of those sort of bits and pieces, are clearly important, and they're the systems that, you're buying into. So.
yeah, and it takes a load off of like the fresh front business owners' shoulders as well, because they're not having to coordinate all of that. A lot of stuff just happens in the background, so it's not that we don't talk to customers, but like a lot of the automated things.
If a marketing lead comes in, there's someone here who can actually respond. If I'm stuck doing some work, someone can actually respond to them. It's because I've made a decision. I want someone to come and have a look, and if that person or someone doesn't respond, it's like I don't care.
Yeah. No, that's been really great, mate. Thanks for sharing everything.
Thanks, mate.
And look forward to turning on some ads and getting you busy in your area.
I look forward to it, mate.
Thank you.